There are three types of cultures. One is based on law and guilt. Another is based on honor and shame. And the third is based on power and fear. Law and guilt is very much descriptive of Western culture. This is why the strongest institution in our culture are legal institutions. Very highly paid people are lawyers. We speak a lot about the rule of law. And again, if you're from the West, you would think there's no other way to build a society, and this is the supreme way. This is the best way. And that's where racial or cultural arrogance creeps in, because we ignore what 2/3 of the world, probably more than 2/3, because the Western world is the smallest in population. But let's just call it, suppose it's evenly divided. It's not. The rest of the world doesn't even follow this kind of society. We care very much in the Western world about written policies. So again, if people say, it's not in my job description, it's not written here, what are they saying? I don't have to do anything for you. Get out of here. It's not written on this piece of paper, so stuff you. Get out of my face. This is the kind of thing that happens a lot in the West, because we're built on law and guilt. We exert influence on people by guilt and by law. The control comes that way. And the rewards, I guess, come that way as well. There's a whole different way to build society and life, and this would be by population, the majority of the world. By population, by far, the majority of the world. It's called honor-shame culture. Honor-shame culture describes all of Asian culture, Eastern culture, Middle Eastern culture, Arab culture. It's called honor-shame culture. In this kind of culture, it doesn't matter really what is written. That isn't the issue. What people value is politeness. Politeness. Politeness goes a long way in Asia. Let's say that something is written that you can't have and you can't do, but you're very polite. They say, just for you, it's okay, I'll take care of it. You see? In Asian culture, everybody here that's Asian here is nodding and smiling. You know it's true. Now, the West says that's lacking rule of law. That's terrible. You're not following the rules. But you also are more relaxed and more relational and able to get things done, because sometimes written law is too strict or too inhumane. Life cannot be led just by strict, tight, rigid rules. You will become Pharisaical. So Eastern culture has honor and shame, and that means that they value politeness. Another thing they value a lot is hospitality. Hospitality is unwritten, isn't it? There's no law that says, I have to be hospitable to you. It says, I must serve you 3 cups of tea. It doesn't say that, does it? Plus a biscuit. Make that 3. No, it's unwritten. But it's more important than what is written. If you act hospitable, you will get the business deal. Whereas a Westerner will come into an Arab country, Asian country, and start laying down the rules and the laws, and this is what you're going to get, and this is what I'm going to do for you, and then in the end they don't get the deal. And they say they don't understand these Asians, these Easterners. But you were not even hospitable. So I think Western business people have learned to acclimate to this and change to this, and they realize, hey, you have business with an Asian, you're going to have a lunch or a dinner together, and not talk about money right away. It's just a hospitable thing. In honor-shame culture, relational credit matters. It's not just the law. It's not just that you're right, so you get your way. You must have some relational credit with people. This is honor-shame culture. And the converse is, if you want to get along with people, you have to really be careful about shaming people. You must try to save face. Protect their face. So people unfortunately don't understand this Western culture. I'll give you an example. Aussie is law-based culture. And unfortunately, Western society always thinks that they're superior, they're better. And so one time, there was a group of people, I think there was more than 10 people caught doing drugs. And one of them was Aussie, Andrew Chan. So the Aussies, the Aussie leaders, who are as thick as a brick, I must say, because if they had just come to Discover Church, I could have told them that this is wrong. What they did was they put out a public statement against capital punishment. Capital punishment is wrong. Capital punishment is not right. See how Westerners are? It's all about right and wrong. How dare you take an Aussie citizen and incarcerate him, judge him, and now you're going to execute him? How dare you? Now, they never think, I mean, even if you know nothing about different cultures, if you just think, let's just suppose that we caught a drug dealer in Springvale and we put him to trial, and Indonesia sends a worldwide global announcement. How stupid are the Australians that they're not killing this drug dealer? In our country, we would execute this guy and we would stop the drug. How stupid of Australians to not do that. Imagine if Indonesians do that. We would say, mind your own business. We're not Indonesia. Who are you? We're Australia, mate. So we're going to run our country the way we want to run our country. So shut up. That's exactly how Australians would treat an Asian imposing their value on Australia. And yet they think nothing of imposing our Western value on another culture. So not only is it so rude and so undiplomatic, it caused shame. So we shame another culture that is based on honor and shame, which meant Andrew Chan was going to get executed for sure. Even if there was a plan to just honor Australia and say, everyone's been judged, everyone's going to be executed, but we want to honor you, Australia, as our partner, and say, Andrew Chan can be judged by you. Asians would be very amenable to that. But because you shamed the Indonesians, Andrew Chan was dead. We Australians killed him. And I know that's true because out of that group there was another foreigner, Filipino. And the Filipino government said nothing publicly to anybody. I'm sure it was a private call. Sorry, Sorry, can you do something for us? We're so sorry. It's okay. We send him back quietly. And that's exactly what happened. One of the Filipinos, I don't know male or female, if I recall correctly, I think it was a female. Life was spared because the national leaders in the Philippines had the common sense to understand honor. Honor will save your life. Dishonor will kill you. Dishonor will cause you to lose everything near and dear to you. It matters so much. In honor culture, people care about protocol and etiquette. Stuff that is not written down. I'm not saying that this is a perfect culture. There can be a lot of corruption in this culture. There can be a lot of things that you may not understand and think is unfair. And you would be right. But then again, your culture is not superior just because you didn't grow up in this kind of society. Because we are obsessed with the law, we are losing our sense of hospitality, our connection with people, what we owe each other that is unwritten. We're losing relationship. People feel lonely in Western culture. And it is a mental disorder in Western culture that people are depressed. And yet they want more rules and more laws and more programs, not realizing that was the very thing that undercut the relationship. Christians shame each other not only publicly, not only online, they do it to each other in court. They throw false accusations against each other. And there's a whole chapter in the Bible, in the New Testament, about this in 1 Corinthians 6. Dare you do this? Dare you bring each other to court? But pastors today that I know in the Western world say, get lawyered up, Get legal advice. Do what the lawyers tell you. The only way to resolve it in our Western society is by law. We are trapped to one mode of doing culture. And most people cannot think outside the box, so we are trapped in a legalistic culture, and you're going to come across legal problems at some point in a Western world. You can live all your life, even get married, get divorced, have a business breakup, and never once appear in court in the Asian world. Isn't that right? A lot of Asians know. They're so surprised that Westerners routinely, regularly waste their money on expensive lawyers and waste their time in court. But to us, it's not a waste because we live in a rule of law culture. We live in a culture where we think if it's written, it's serious. If it's not, it's dubious. It's light. But if we can create kingdom culture, at least in the church, at least we can have some peace from constant Pharisaism. We can have some freedom from constant, throwing the rule and throwing the books at people. I think that would be much better to have kingdom culture than just our own culture. We honor every culture, and we know each culture has an aspect of truth. Each culture has its flaws, but the Bible is kingdom culture. The three kinds of struggles on earth are guilt, shame, and fear. Guilt comes from law-based culture, shame comes from honor-based culture, and fear comes mainly in power-based culture. Jesus, he took away all three problems, guilt, shame, and fear. Jesus took away the punishment for all sins, made us righteous and innocent again, so we could live free from guilt and condemnation. Now, if you say that, every Westerner says, you just preached the gospel. No, I didn't. I just preached one side of the gospel out of three. But it's your favorite side, so it resonates with you. So if you're talking to a Westerner, that's all you have to say about the gospel. There are two other gospels, if you base it on culture, that you hardly hear. The other is Jesus took our shame and restored our honor. In Galatians 4, verse 4, it says, when the time had fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under law, to redeem those under law. Yes, we got the innocence. But for what? That we might receive the full rights. There's the honor. That we might receive the full rights of sons. There's the power. If you're a son, you've got the power. But you're not just any son, you're the son with the full rights. There's the honor. So Jesus took our shame, restored our honor. And there's another way to present the gospel, which is often done by Reinhard Bonnke in Africa, and it works very well in Africa. Jesus exercised power over devils and demons. His blood sacrifice conquered all enemies in our lives. He defeated death, so we don't have to be afraid anymore. Jesus' resurrection demonstrated his supreme power. He is our superhero. He's the chief of chiefs, the head of heads, the king of kings, the lord of lords. And you see African song, King of kings, Lord of lords, and they'll dance that because that shows we should believe Jesus. Why? He's the most powerful chief. He's got power over demons. He's got power over our witch doctors. He's got power over every evil spirit we were afraid of. You see? And then the Westerners say, why do the miracles break out in Africa and not over here? We better preach more law. We better preach against sin some more. You see that? Now when you see the three cultures, you realize how entrapped we are by our own cultural paradigm. We can't even see the truth, and we keep going the wrong way and thinking our culture is right. You're not going to get miracles to break out by preaching more against sin, even though I preach against sin. But preaching against sin is only one out of the three problems. Sin or guilt is one. Shame is another one. Shame and dishonor is another one. And then fear and demonic powers is a third one. Which one you're going to emphasize? If you emphasize demons and God's great power to heal and to cast out demons, you're going to get miracles. But in the Western world, we're obsessed with law, so we teach intellectually and theologically and systematically, and then say, I wonder why we have no miracles, but we are right in the way we preach. Everybody else is wrong. They'll literally tell you, like if you have meetings that emphasize healing and miracles and the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues, they will say, you are wrong. And they'll hate you and get angry and say, I wonder why we don't see miracles. It's a lot of it just simply the fact that you're trapped in your own culture. Now, does that mean Western culture is wrong? No, because I believe in Africa, there's a lot of wrong doctrine. I believe there is a false kind of prosperity gospel. But it's false to us especially because we are more theologically, systematically sound, but we got no miracles and power going. They got all the powers and the miracles, but they're not as caring about the academic side of Jesus. Jesus is not the great intellectual that's persuaded them to believe in them instead of the witch doctor. But that's how Westerners want to be. Test all things, prove all things. I've proven it to you, therefore you have to believe. No, most of the world will not believe. They will be offended by your intellectual pride. Does that make sense? So we want to be very well-rounded, and honor, I think, completes the rounding off for a church like us and for a lot of the people that listen to me. You are very intellectual and you're very well-educated, but yet you've maybe stepped over the line with honor and dishonor and don't know that may be a problem area, a flaw that if you just correct, it's very easy. Everything in life will start to sort itself out.